Hello again and welcome back to our course on Excel 2013. In this section we're going to look at conditional formatting, and I'm going to use as an example this class gradebook. Now if you look at this gradebook, it's got a load of scores for some quizzes, midterms, essays and so on. And really, to the casual observer, it's just a mass of numbers. It's very difficult to get a picture, for instance, at which members of the class are particularly strong, or maybe which of the quizzes, midterms, essays got good results, which of them got bad results, and so on. And conditional formatting can really help with this. Now the basis on which conditional formatting works is that the cells are formatted so that it's possible to compare them visually with each other. Now the comparison can be based on all sorts of things. It can be based on just how big the numbers are. So the highest scores in this case will have one colour, the lowest scores will have a different colour, maybe a sort of spectrum of colours in between them. It can also be done on the basis of data bars, icon sets and so on. And probably the best way to do it in relation to this particular example is to work through a couple of examples to show the sort of thing that we can do with a data set like this one. Now what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to just choose one of the quiz results. So I'm going to go from cell B2 down to B20 and just show you conditional formatting on that. So we go to the Home tab, to the Styles group, and in the Styles group, top there we have conditional formatting. Now with conditional formatting we have a number of options. We have the option to highlight cells, we have the option to highlight the top and bottom, to put in data bars that represent the relative merits of the scores in this case, to format using colour scales, or to use icon sets. Now in each of these cases we're basically building up a rule, and therefore we have a set of commands to manage those rules. We can create a new rule, we can clear rules, or we can just go into manage rules, which enables us to set the rules that we've got set up. So just as an example for this first one, let's do a straightforward case of colour scales. And we get a choice of the colour scales that we want to use. Let's go for, say, that first one. Now if I hover over it, you can pretty much see the general idea of that particular colour scale. You notice the green ones, the green scores, the most green scores, there's a score of 94 and an even higher one of 98. Now notice how as you move away from 98, 94, 87 is also a green score, but it's not as green. The level of green has gone down, and then right near the top 82, the green is almost gone. Then you move into a yellow or amber colour scale as you go down through the 70s, and the two lowest scores, the two 43s, are shown in red. So that's a very straightforward way of doing conditional formatting to adopt a rule like that one. So let me just tick on that, and that rule is now in place. Now let me choose the second set of results. Again, repeat this exercise. Go back to colour scales again. I chose their colour scales green, red and yellow. You can just about see them on the little icons to the right of the drop down menu there. There are other colour schemes that you can choose, including some where not everything is coloured in and some of them which leave white. So there's one which really highlights the lowest scores there in red, but the higher ones are in deeper and deeper blues. So the colour scale there, as the screen tip tells you, is blue, white, red colour scale. Apply a colour gradient to a range of cells. The colour indicates where each cell value falls within that range. So to some extent which colour scale you use will depend on, for instance, well, your own personal preference, but also whether you're maybe merging this in with some other document with some kind of colour scheme. But that's pretty much how the colour scale approach works. One of the other main options here, let's next look at data bars, because data bars also you have choice of colours. You can also use a gradient fill. I'm going to use a gradient fill in this case, but here the relative merits of the scores are based on the use of data bars. So let me go for the first one there again, which is a sort of blue with a gradient. select that, I'll click away. Now what you can see there is that the higher scores virtually fill the width of the cells. So cell C5 are 97%. You see the very wide bar there which almost fills the cell, and then the lowest score, which is C16, you've got a relatively short data bar. And then the third main option, if I select the third set of results, and again conditional formatting, is icon sets. And this is where you use a set of icons to indicate how good a particular score is within a set. Now you have directional icons, arrows, coloured arrows, grey arrows, circles, triangles, tick, exclamation mark, cross warnings and so on, green, yellow, red flags, various other ones here, even ones that are a bit like you'd see on your wireless network connection at home. Let's go for that one, the wireless network connection set. There are 5 in that set, so no signal's the lowest, then you've got 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar. Let's click on that, click away, and again you can see the highest scores, the ones in the 90s, have got the sort of full 4 bars on their little icon set, and the lowest scores have got no bars on the icon set. Note how you still see the number in this case next to the icon. So really they're the 3 main possibilities. Obviously there are many different sorts of icon, and obviously with all of them you can change the colours, but that's basically the 3 main options. Now once you've applied a set of conditional formatting rules to some cells, it's quite easy to clear it or change it again. Let's go to the last set that we've used here, the ones with the little icons on them. Go back into conditional formatting, and we've got an option just near the bottom there, clear rules. Clear rules from selected cells. So if I just wanted to clear all of those conditional formatting rules, choose that option there. There's also an option, clear rules from entire sheet. So if I want to clear all of my conditional formatting rules on this sheet, that's how I do it from there. Now on this occasion I don't actually want to clear the rules, so I'm going to go into manage rules instead. Now first of all, when you go into the rule manager, it shows you the rules usually for the current selection if you have a current selection. You can also choose to show the formatting rules for the whole worksheet, or if you've got other sheets in the book you can look at the rules on those other sheets. This particular workbook only has a single sheet. So let's stick with the rules for the current selection, and there is one rule at the moment. It's an icon set rule. The format there shows the icons we've chosen to use, and it also shows which cells it applies to. This is called the range that it applies to, and it's D2 to D20, as you can see. We could, if we wanted to, delete the rule, which would be effectively the same as clearing the rule. We can also go in and edit the rule. So if you click on edit rule, it says, first of all, in the top, select the type of rule. Now the type of rule we're using is one that formats all cells based on their values. This is actually a particular type of rule because we can also have rules that only format certain cells. Look at the second one here, for example, format only cells that contain. We could, for instance, say I want to use an icon set but only on the top 10% scores, or I could use a colour scheme but I only want it on the bottom 50% or the top 50%. So you don't have to apply the same rule to everything in the selection. We've started off with a very straightforward rule that says format all cells based on their values. The second part gives us what the rule description is. So format all cells based on their values, that's what we've got as our selection. The style we've got is icon sets. That's opposed to the other options that we looked at earlier on, as we used in the first one, which was the color scales or the data bars, which we used in the second one. So they're our basic choice, although with the color scale we can have a 2 color scale or a 3 color scale. Let's suppose we want to stick with icon sets, but we want to change the icons. So let's say we wanted to change to this colored icon set here. We then have a definition of when we will show each of these different colored icons. So we've got green when the value is greater than or equal to 75, yellow icon when it's greater than or equal to 50, red when it's less than 50, and black when it's less than 25. That's percentage of the total. So it actually looks at the scores in the range that we've looked at and says the percentage of the scores in the overall range, the overall selection. So let's click on OK and see what that looks like now. Click on OK to confirm the change to the rule. Let's click away, and there we are. So the good scores have got the green circles, then we've got the amber circles, the red circles, and of course the very worst ones are the blacks. Now it's important to note that that's based on percentages. Let me just select that again, conditional formatting, go back into manage rules, go back into this rule again, edit the rule again. If I didn't want to use percentages, and in fact what I wanted to say was I want an actual number. I want you to show as green all the scores that are over, say, 80. And I want you to show as yellow all the scores that are over, say, 60. That's as an actual number. The scores over 40 as an actual number will be the red ones. Okay, and then that means the black ones will be the ones under 40. So that's based on actual scores rather than percentages. Click on OK. Click on OK again. Watch the changes to the colors there now as I do that. And you'll see, in fact, there's nobody with a score below 40, which is good. And the red ones, there's a 56 there and a 58 near the bottom. So that's based on actual scores rather than percentages. Now, there's just one other thing I'd like to show you here. I'm going to choose one of the other tests here. Let's go for that one. And conditional formatting again, and this time I'm going to go into the top bottom rules, and I'm going to choose one of these. I'm going to choose top 10%. What I'm going to say is format cells that rank in the top. Now you don't have to stick with 10%, you could say the top, say 20%. And then you can choose how to highlight those. Light red fill with dark red text. Green fill with dark green text. What about that? Click on OK. Click away. And you'll see just about the green text there. Obviously the fact that there's this slight shading in this table doesn't help in this case. Having selected that, I'm going to select it again. Conditional formatting, top bottom rules. I'm now going to say bottom 10%, and I'm going to say the bottom 20% I want to do light red fill with dark red text. Click on OK, and now I've got some shaded green, some shaded red. Let me just select again, conditional formatting again, manage rules again, and now I see that for this particular selection I have two rules in place, one for the bottom 20%, one for the top 20%. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't have several rules in place for one selection. And there's a little checkbox on the right here, stop if true. This is quite important. What it says is if you've got a particular cell that satisfies one of these criteria, once you've found one of the criteria that's true, you stop at that point. So if something's been flagged as red, you don't go ahead and check that it's green. Okay, there's plenty there for you to experiment with on conditional formatting. I'm going to leave you with an exercise to do now. I'm going to save this sheet as example 9. Just before I do, let me just make things a little bit easier for you. I'm just going to select in the body here, cell styles, put that back to normal so you can see a little bit more easily what I've done. I quite like this system here with the greens, yellows and reds. Of course, if anybody had got a score below 40, they would have got a black. What I'd like you to do is just select those, not give you too many clues. and then I'm going to say clear rules from the entire sheet, so everything's gone. I would like you to apply a rule to all of the scores on this sheet, which basically is some kind of green, yellow, red, black rule, like the circles we used just now. Green for a score over 90, that's not percent, that's an actual score of 90. Yellow for a score over 70, red for a score over 50, and black for a score below 50. And I will save my answer to this as example 10. I'll see you in the next section.